The politics of British India after the establishment of direct British Crown rule in 1858 was one of the most important and complicated periods in the history of the Indian subcontinent. It was a time of political struggle, social change, economic exploitation, rising nationalism, and growing communal tensions. For the Muslims of the subcontinent, this period had a very deep historical and emotional meaning because it came after the downfall of Muslim political power that had existed in different forms for many centuries. The Muslims, who had once ruled large parts of India under various dynasties, suddenly found themselves politically weak, economically backward, and socially marginalized under British domination. This drastic change shaped Muslim political thinking and later influenced the demand for separate political identity and eventually a separate homeland. Before British supremacy, Muslims had ruled much of the Indian subcontinent for nearly 800 years. Beginning with the Delhi Sultanate and later reaching its height under the Mughal Empire, Muslim rulers established systems of administration, law, education, trade, architecture, and culture that left a lasting impact on South Asian civilization. The Mughal Empire especially became one of the greatest empires of the early modern world. Under rulers like Akbar, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb, the empire achieved political stability, economic prosperity, and administrative strength. However, by the 18th century, the Mughal Empire had begun to weaken due to internal conflicts, provincial rebellions, corruption, and foreign invasions. At the same time, the British East India Company gradually expanded its political and military influence. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757 and the Battle of Buxar in 1764, British power rapidly increased in India. Eventually, after defeating regional powers and weakening the Mughals, the British became the dominant force in the subcontinent. The revolt of 1857 became the decisive turning point in Indian politics. The British called it the Sepoy Mutiny, while many Indians considered it the first war of independence. Muslims and Hindus both participated in the uprising, but the British especially blamed the Muslims because the symbolic leadership of the revolt rested with the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar. After crushing the revolt, the British abolished the Mughal Empire completely and exiled Bahadur Shah Zafar to Burma. In 1858, the British Crown formally took direct control of India from the East India Company. The political consequences of 1857 were severe for the Muslims. The British considered them the main enemies of colonial rule because Muslims had historically been the ruling class. Many Muslim nobles lost their lands, properties, and administrative positions. Persian, which had been the language of administration under Muslim rule, was replaced by English. Muslim educational institutions weakened, and Muslims became suspicious of Western education and British political intentions. As a result, while some Hindu communities adapted more quickly to the new colonial system, many Muslims lagged behind in education, government employment, and commerce. Economically, the Muslims suffered greatly during this period. Many old Muslim aristocratic families lost their sources of income. Traditional industries and crafts declined because British industrial goods flooded Indian markets. Land reforms introduced by the British also harmed many Muslim landholders in certain regions. The economic decline of Muslims created frustration and insecurity within the community. Socially, Muslims also experienced a loss of confidence because they had gone from being rulers to subjects under a foreign power. In this difficult situation, Muslim reformers emerged to guide the community. Among them, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan played the most important role. He believed that Muslims could not progress unless they accepted modern education and adjusted themselves to the new political realities. Through the Aligarh movement and the establishment of the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, later known as Aligarh Muslim University, Sir Syed tried to modernize Muslim society. He encouraged Muslims to learn English, study modern sciences, and cooperate with the British government. Sir Syed also developed an important political idea. He believed that Hindus and Muslims were two distinct communities with different religions, cultures, histories, and social systems. Although he did not initially demand a separate state, he feared that democratic politics based on majority rule would politically disadvantage Muslims because Hindus formed the majority population in India. This thinking later became the foundation of the two-nation theory. Meanwhile, Indian nationalism was also rising during the late 19th century. In 1885, the Indian National Congress was established. The Congress claimed to represent all Indians regardless of religion. However, many Muslim leaders remained suspicious of Congress politics because they believed that Hindu majoritarian interests dominated the organization. Muslims feared that under a democratic system controlled by the Hindu majority, Muslim political rights and identity would be weakened. These fears increased during several political developments. One important event was the partition of Bengal in 1905 by Lord Curzon. The British divided Bengal for administrative reasons, but many Hindus opposed the decision because they believed it weakened Bengali nationalism. Muslims, especially in eastern Bengal, generally supported the partition because it created opportunities for Muslim political and educational advancement. However, due to strong Hindu opposition and Congress agitation, the British annulled the partition in 1911. This deeply disappointed Muslims and strengthened their belief that Congress politics mainly reflected Hindu interests. In 1906, Muslim leaders established the All India Muslim League in Dhaka to protect Muslim political rights and interests. The Muslim League initially demanded safeguards such as separate electorates, through which Muslims could elect their own representatives. The British accepted this demand in the Morley Minto reforms of 1909. Separate electorates became a major feature of Indian politics and reflected the growing political separation between Hindus and Muslims. During the early 20th century, Congress and the Muslim League sometimes cooperated, especially during the Lucknow Pact of 1916. However, this unity did not last long. The Khilafat movement and the non-cooperation movement temporarily brought Hindus and Muslims together against British rule, but communal tensions soon returned. Riots between Hindus and Muslims increased in different parts of India during the 1920s and 1930s. Another important turning point came with the provincial elections of 1937 under the Government of India Act 1935. Congress won major victories and formed governments in several provinces. Many Muslims believed that Congress ministries ignored Muslim concerns and promoted Hindu cultural dominance. Policies related to language, education, and symbols created fear among Muslims that Hindu majoritarian rule after independence would threaten their identity and political future. During this period, Muhammad Ali Jinnah emerged as the most important Muslim political leader. Initially a supporter of Hindu-Muslim unity, Jinnah gradually became convinced that Muslims needed a separate political destiny. Under his leadership, the Muslim League transformed into a mass political movement. In 1940, the League passed the Lahore Resolution, which demanded independent states for Muslims in Muslim-majority areas of India. This later became the foundation for the demand for Pakistan. The final years of British India were marked by intense political conflict. Congress demanded a strong united India, while the Muslim League insisted that Muslims were a separate nation entitled to self-determination. The British, weakened after the Second World War, could no longer maintain control over India. Communal violence increased sharply during the 1940s, especially after Direct Action Day in 1946. Political negotiations repeatedly failed because Congress and the Muslim League could not agree on the future constitutional structure of India. Finally, in 1947, British India was partitioned into two independent states, India and Pakistan. Pakistan emerged as the homeland for Muslims of the subcontinent under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. However, partition also brought terrible human suffering. Millions of people migrated across borders, and communal violence caused immense bloodshed and displacement. A critical analysis of British Indian politics shows that British colonial policies often deepened communal divisions for imperial interests. The British used strategies of divide and rule to maintain their authority. At the same time, the fears and political demands of Muslims were not entirely artificial. Muslims had experienced political decline, economic backwardness, and social insecurity after losing centuries of power. Many Muslim leaders genuinely feared permanent domination under a Hindu-majority democratic system. Similarly, Congress nationalism, although anti-colonial and democratic in many ways, sometimes failed to fully address Muslim political anxieties. The inability of Indian leaders to build lasting trust between communities eventually contributed to partition. Thus, the politics of British India from 1858 to 1947 was shaped by colonial domination, competing nationalisms, historical memories, and communal fears. For Muslims, the period represented both decline and awakening. From a defeated and marginalized community after 1857, they gradually reorganized themselves politically and intellectually until they ultimately achieved a separate homeland in 1947.